Welcome back to another Python video. Today we're going to talk about classes. I've actually never talked, I don't think so at least, about classes in Python on this channel before. I figure it's a very important topic. I feel like there are a lot of YouTube videos already out there on classes, but hopefully if you're wanting to learn classes, you stumble upon this video, and hopefully this video helps you in some way. I try to make my videos in a way that I like to learn, and I like to explain them in a way that I will understand them, and hopefully that helps you understand them as well. And if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. That way you don't miss any other videos that you might find useful in the future. And go back and look at some of my other playlists. We have some good series out there. And this video is going to be under the preface that you at least know the basics of a class, right? You know that a class is basically a template for an object, and it's going to hold different properties and methods. And if you're totally new to classes, maybe you'll watch this video. You might have some more questions, and I will link this particular article down below, and you can go read this, and hopefully it answers any questions. It can supplement some information that I might miss in this particular video, with that assumption that you know the basics of classes. But yeah, a class is a user-defined blueprint or prototype from which objects are created. In our example, we're going to create a dog class. I'm going to give it different properties. I'm going to build what I call a constructor. If you're coming from C#, it's what you know as a constructor. Really here, they just call it the init method. We'll talk about that. And yeah, just go from there. So classes in Python. How do you create a class? First, we use the class keyword. So class, and then I'm going to name this class dog. So there you go. That's why it says dog. And then we're given a colon. And anything inside of this block is now part of this class. So anything spaced over is going to be a part of this. So what are some properties we can give this? So I'm going to give a property called tail, and that's going to be equal to wag, because the dog wags its tail. Ears, I'm going to be set that property equal to not listening, because dogs typically don't like to listen to me, at least. Maybe they listen to you. And so this is a class. It might not have a lot of properties. It doesn't have any methods. It doesn't have an initialization method or constructor, as you might have seen other classes, but nonetheless, this is a class. And if we wanted to create an instance of this class, instead of using the new keyword, we're just going to say this. Let's say our dog's name is Rufus, and so I'm going to make a variable called Rufus, or an object rather, called Rufus, and that's going to be equal to dog, if I can spell it. And now we can go ahead and print out those properties. So Rufus dot tail, we're going to print out. I'm just going to copy this line, and instead of Rufus.tail, let's do Rufus.ears and print out that value as well. And if we go to run this, we see the tail property, which is set to wag. We see the ears property set to not listening, and these are mutable, meaning I can take the value. So we can say Rufus.tail is equal to missing. Where did it go? I don't know. That's not important. But if we run this, we can see that I ended up changing that property of the dog in this particular object. Now we can have multiple objects, right? So I have Rufus, and now I can have Spot, who is another dog. So we're going to create another dog instance. And let's do Rufus.tail. Let's print that out. And then down below Rufus.tail, let's do Spot.tail. So we can read out or print out both of those properties. And if I run this down below, you can see I didn't save. I was like, whoa, that's not the right amount. Let's actually clear this too. There's too much stuff. Now let's run it. We get missing. So that's the Rufus.tail property value, because that's what we set it to right here. Spots.tail property value is going to be wag, as it says down here, because we never ended up changing it. And then Rufus.ears is also what it was set to in the class, because we never changed that either. So you can have a plethora of objects in Python, just as you would probably expect. So let's now create a method in this dog class. In this method, I'm going to have the dog bark. And so to do that, I use the def keyword, and then we go ahead and give it some kind of name. So in our case, it's going to be bark. I'm not going to pass anything into this. And then I'm just going to print out woof, like that. And so let's get rid of all of this, and let's run Rufus.bark. And if we run this, it should print out down below. But notice we get this error, right? And you're probably wondering, why didn't it just print wolf? And if we read this, it says type error, bark takes 0 positional arguments, but 1 was given. And you're probably like, well, we didn't pass anything along to this method. We passed nothing into these parentheses. What is this one given argument? And that is, in Python, in every method, you are going to pass in self. And self is basically the this that you might see in other languages. So self is going to reference this instance of the class. And I know that probably sounds a little bit confusing, but every time a method is called, Python is going to automatically pass in to every method of a class at least that instance of the class. So think of it as Rufus.bark passing in Rufus, except it does that automatically. So now if I save it and I run it, we now get wolf. And that's because in the method we said, hey, we're going to accept self since you automatically pass this in. Whether or not we use it in this method, that's irrelevant. It's going to do it regardless. And then we're going to do our normal method stuff. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is the init method in Python. So we're going to create another method, and it's going to be underscore underscore init underscore underscore. And then once again, the first value passed into this is going to be self. And then we can also pass other things. So let's say we want to give the object or the dog a name every time a new dog is created. And so I'll also pass in something called name. And then inside of this method, we can do self.name is going to be equal to name. So what that's going to do, it's going to create a new property in this object called name. And then that name value is going to be the name passed into the initialization method. So let's get rid of Spot. Rufus, his name is just going to be Rufus. And notice once again, and it's going to be a string, not that. There we go. And notice once again, we didn't pass in self. Python automatically, the first thing passed into a method is going to automatically be the self. And now if I print Rufus.name and I go to run this, we see it's Rufus because that's what we passed in here. And then down below, we ran the bark method. Okay, a lot of things I've thrown at you. This is probably a relatively quick video, but hopefully they all made sense. If not, try to rewind and rewatch this video. I think maybe if you hear it a few times and go through it on your own too, I think that'll also help tremendously. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next video, and take care.